Okay, all right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody. Hey. It's Sunday morning. It's Grace Talks time. Let me just shift a little bit so that I can be proper. I see we are all here. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, before I even take the greetings, if you have a young friend or if you have a daughter, all right, that is not here with you, my friend, please have them sit down there with you. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I would like this. Yes, there's four of us that are going to have this conversation. Myself, BK, as Onks, and Nicky. But I'd love to have as many of us contribute here as possible. So it's not just going to be the four of us. I really would like to hear from you as well, ladies. But let me take the greetings. As it is customary, and we know it by now, when you walk into this house, the Grace Talks house, you greet. You tell us where you are joining us from. You hit the like button or the love button or something just to give us a little bit of love to warm us up. This food mess, and then you tag someone that you know will benefit from this conversation. And if you would also kindly share from wherever it is that you are, you just hit the share button. And if you have not done so, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And ladies, you have been so kind, and gentlemen, so kind. We've now gone over 500 subscribers. So we're going far. Thank you so much. Let me greet somebody from the Facebook group took the front row seat. I'm not sure who it is because they're in the closed group. But anyway, good morning. And then K2 took the second seat, right? Joining us all the way from Potchefstroom. Good morning. Kanyora, good morning, my friend. Dikor Mani is in the house. It's so good to hear from you. Somebody greeting us from Cape Town. Good morning, Cape Town. All right, good morning. Mama Ketuka, morning. Kanye, it's good to see you back at home, all right? It's good to see you there. Colleagues are joining us from Ekwebecha, in the neighborhood. Kwebecha is in the house. Cape Town seems to be here. My Chi also joining us from Cape Town. Mama Tabo is also here. Had a birthday this week. I hope you are still celebrating. Ma, good morning and happy belated birthday from our side. All right, I'm not sure if that one is for me. All right, Mo is here, so Botswana is in the house. Josejo is here, so Botswana is in the house. I love this. Somebody's calling, somebody says, Iza uyabizwa. And Mo is calling her daughter. That's the whole idea. All right. Good morning. Z joining us from Egqeberha. Nicky is here. Diala is in the house. King Williamstown is in the house. Come on, I need some more King to wake up. And Nomsa joining us from Eswatini. We are here. Lubatse is joining us from Lubatse in Botswana. Okay, all right. Thank you so much, ladies. I think we will continue to take the greetings. I may not be able to call out everybody, though. Mercy joining us from Johannesburg. But thank you so much. That's the first thing that we do when you come in here. You send us your greetings. Okay, now, then the next thing that you do, as I've told you, you share, you do whatever. But let me go straight into our conversation, and that is bring our guests in, all right? But before I do so, for those of us, ladies, everybody by now knows, all right? If you are part of the community, you know that we are, let me just not hide, let me not scroll this, what is the word I'm looking for? Just give me a second here. I just want to do the following. There you go. Okay, I'm gonna add this banner on. Okay, it wants to scroll. Okay, good news. We have created a little bit of space. So when we went to visit, all right, our venue was from conversations with the lodge was a 300 capacity venue. But when we went to visit, we found that we could actually increase capacity to 350. Okay, so we have space then for about 50 more people. However, it is on a first come, first served basis. First register, first pay basis. So you can come and talk to me and I will say to you, register on the link, all right? But if you register on the link and not pay the registration fee, and tomorrow another registers on the link and they pay the registration fee, and we are full before you've paid the registration fee, then we are full. Okay, so my advice then, because there's been a lot of people that have been asking and talking to us, and we love that. But my advice to you, ladies, go register and pay the 700 Rand quickly, so that you do not miss out on this. Now that 50, I think it's about 50 something, that 50, some of it is at the hotel. Okay, but the rest of it is mainly for day visitors because the hotel is almost full. I'm not sure how many beds I've got available there. Very few beds, but we still have a little bit. Okay, but the majority of the additional space is really for day visitors. Again, I want to say that to our day visitors, especially this now is mostly for our Joburg sisters community. Listen, normally when there's a function like this, day visitors come in and they get paid closer to the day. For us, our venue does not allow us to have somebody come in on that day if they're not pre-booked. So if you are coming in as a day visitor, you will need to book and pay. Otherwise, somebody else is going to book and pay, and you can't just rock up on that Thursday or on that Friday, because then we would not be able to allocate space for you. All right, I just thought let me clarify that. I will come back again with that later on. Okay, so let me bring in my guests. All right, let me bring in my guests so that I do not become too rude talking here and they are in the background. Okay, so there we have our conversation. We are having a conversation around the table today. We just said it's girl talk, it's ladies talking. Okay, Onks, can I ask you? I'm not sure if you're on a phone or on a laptop, but I've got too much space above you. There we go. Thank you so much. Now we see all of you. I'm going to ask everybody to greet ladies. Those of you who are part of the community, you would be familiar with either these names or these faces. All right, we have Nicky joining us from Kebonyemodisa. So Nicky is just around the corner from me. All right, and then we have BK, Boka Muso, Kebonyemodisa. That's her name. You must hold your breath and go. And I think I got it, BK. Please, I hope I've got it. And then we've got Onks. BK is joining us from Maun in Botswana. And then we've got Onks, Onka, Mahupe joining us all the way from the UAE. So the four of us are going to talk about money, all right? But we'll tell you more about that. Ladies, let you greet the community and then we can get going. All right, we'll start with you, Nicky, and then we'll go to Onks, and then we go to you, BK. You just unmute and speak.
My Theatre of Grace family, my sisters, my mothers, good morning. As it was said, I'm Yenkabecha, nicely wet and cold, but I'm happy to be with you all this morning, and let's enjoy the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicky. Onks?
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here once again.
Thank you so much, BK.
Good morning, everyone. How are you? BK here, all the way from Botswana. I hope you're going to have a great time. Nice to see you all.
I hope it's warm there because it's warm in
No, yeah. Botswana is warm. It's cold in the morning and very hot in the afternoon.
Great. Okay, and we're going to go straight into it. And the first thing we want to talk about, and ladies, like I said, please share your views as well. We're talking about money today. Disclaimer, all right? None of us are experts at money. You'll see here, now, maybe a little bit honest in terms of where she works, but I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just a woman. All right? So none of us are coming here from an expert place, all right? But what I felt we need to talk about, the theme for the next couple of weeks at the Theatre of Grace, we are focusing on young women. We are praying for them. We are looking at all sorts of areas, aspects of their lives, okay? But we are coming in from maybe older sisters and sharing lessons that we have learned, the good and the bad, lessons that we have learned on the topic of money. But we are taking it back to when we were young. The reason for that is so that the ones who are currently young may learn a thing or two from what we already know. It may have changed because life does change, but some of it has not changed. And hopefully they would use that as they build their own money, behavior or money life as they grow older. But also for all of us, at the end of the day, it's not just about young women, money, it's about women and money. Okay, because we can at any stage learn something. At any stage, we are never too old to learn. So we are sharing this, not just the four of us. That's what I'm saying is I'd love for you as well to contribute. So the first question I'm asking my guests is conversations about money. Conversations about money when you grew up. what some of the words or some of the phrases that were common in your community, in your family, in your church about money when you were young, when you were a young woman, when you were conscious? We're not talking about when you were 7 now, but just in general, when you were becoming conscious of it. I'll give you one for me. That was a conversation. So that I'm just getting you now to think. The one was money does not grow on trees. That is a very common one. Okay, and that was the conversation that says money, but the posture is that we do not have money. Whenever you ask for something, we don't have money. And so I grew up with a posture that whoever we was, we do not have money. But the problem with me hearing it at such a young age, it didn't just say we do not have money now, but it just said that we cannot have money.
We don't.
We can't. We are not the people that have money, because money does not grow on trees. I don't know about other people, but let me hear from you. So ladies, like I said, I'd love to hear from you in the chats as well. What was the conversation about money in your community? Okay. Onks, let me start with you. If you can hear me. I hear you can't hear Nicky and BK. We're gonna try again and let's see if you can hear them now going forward. But you can start.
Yeah, I can hear you, Sis Beauty. And I mean, there were so many phrases when I was growing up about money. One that was very common was that money is never enough. So, and I think for me, what that said to me was, it's not about how much you have, but it's how you use that money. So I think that really shaped how I just started using money from the time I started having my own money from allowance, salary, and so on and so on. So I think for me, that was really one that I've held on so much. Yeah.
I like the statement. You've said it in English, money doesn't grow on trees. In Afrikaans, my mom always used to say, geld groei nie op my ruggie. Like, it doesn't grow on my back. A direct translation, it doesn't grow on my back. So don't take chances. You're not supposed to love this thing. Don't even think about it. If I can do something for you, because we're 5 girls. So if I can do something for you, you'll get it. If it's not there, don't ask, and don't even look at your friends and try and come and pressurize. Geld groei nie op my ruggie. And that was always like, okay, we don't have. We don't have.
Yeah. So you take that then into your adulthood.
Yes.
That we don't have. Yeah. Let me unmuted you.
Okay. With me, I was raised up by a single mother. Can you hear me, Beauty?
Loud and clear.
Okay. So my mom was very strict when it came to money and issues. So she would tell us not to envy other people, like to be content with what we had. So if I go to school and I find other girls having something, nice toys, because I used to go to a government school growing up. So, and we were fed from, the government used to feed us at school with portions, like normal food that were not that nice. And then we had other girls who bring nice stuff from shops, like chips and stuff like that. So my mom would tell us, listen, Boka, eat that food, okay? We don't know where they're getting the money from. Be content with where you come from. Don't envy other people. So it stuck in my mind when I was growing up that, okay, I shouldn't compare my life to others. I should be happy with what I have and who I am. And it helped me a lot. Even when I went to university,
Okay, because that was my next question. How did that show up in your life? The posture, Nicky, that the groei nie op my rug nie. How did that affect your posture when you did now have access to money and as your own money? And for me is that even when I did have it, I didn't have it. And so one of the quickest things that I would do without even thinking, I would get money, but I think I spent it as quickly as I could because we don't have money as a posture that we grew up in. So I wanted to just check with you. So the whole posture of the language, how does it help your money behavior? For example, for BK, she says that contentment has helped her even as she's grown up. So I don't know if Onks, you have heard me, but Nicky, then Onks.
Look, I only started managing my own money in my mid-20s. because of my head start at school, I started working at the age of 19. My mom had my bank card. In fact, she was with me when we went to open the account. There's something that I'm picking up. We all speaking about our mothers, and it is said that women loves money, but yet our moms were the strict ones when it came to money control in the home. That was my experience as well. She had my card, my first job. She would get the money, and she would give me money to spend and then use the other money in the home. We then decided to open an account. It was through its account. Because that time I was fascinated and I couldn't wait to open that account. She managed that account. She paid that account. She would go with me when we go to buy for whoever. So I never had that control, even when I started my first job. But looking back now, that was actually not a bad thing because I was disciplined. If she gave me money to spend, that's the money I had to spend. If it finished, it's finished. You don't come and ask, we have to survive the whole week or the whole month with this money. So looking back, not having control at the age of 19 was actually a good thing for me. I don't know how you guys
financial discipline. It instills financial discipline. Let's see. Onks?
Hi, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can. I don't know if you could hear Nicky though.
I heard Nicky. I didn't hear you because I was off, so I'm not sure if I'll be.
Okay.
I heard the question. Yeah.
I was just saying that the language then that was being used at that time, the phrases that came up, how have they affected you? So I was sharing that for me, the whole issue of money does not grow on trees sent one line to me that we don't have money. So even as I grew older and I could have money, I was able to make money. I spent it quickly because my mind was used to not having money. So I was trying to get myself to that. My equilibrium was we don't have money. So when I had it, I used it so that I can go back to equilibrium, i.e. we don't have money. So I was just asking about that, is that the posture growing up or the lessons or the observations that you've made growing up, what you heard, how has it affected how you related with money?
Yeah, I think for me, one thing that I really grew up appreciating, or when I look back, I appreciate more, is the contentment that brought that phrase of saying money is never enough, right? So it means whatever that I have, I need to use it wisely. I remember the first time I had money, like where I'm not controlled on how to spend it, is when I went to varsity. So I'll be given an allowance. And what used to happen is we all waited for the 25th or 24th, depending on which day the government will give us the allowance. And we'll all run there's a grocery store called Choppies and go and buy our stuff. We had an option to eat in the school, but we'd rather go buy our stuff and would boil stuff in the dorms, And I think what meant is this money need to last me for the whole month. So if it get finished, I knew that that's it. So it means I live with whatever is left. If it's Movite, if it's Cremora and cornflakes for the rest of the month, that was it. I think for me, that also gave me that discipline, but also the fact that, you know what, if I don't have, I don't have. That's it. So I think for me that really, I think when in hindsight, I look at it to say positively, yes, discipline, but also the challenge with that is now I'm very scared of taking big risks. Like, you know, for me to spend a huge amount of money, you really need to convince me, right? So it means I'm slower when it comes to investing now because I'm thinking, if I lose this money, what will happen? School fees and stuff. So that's the other bit of it. But I think generally it's a positive thing.
Boka, do you want to say something? Must I unmute you or shall I move on? You're fine. Sorry, we've muted. We can unmute.
Okay, I just want to, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to say that what I said earlier, like my mom teaching me not to compare myself with others, with what they're having. It helped me a lot, especially when I went to varsity. I would say I grew up as more like a traditional girl. In Botswana, we'll call you Botswana chicken. Like when you're somehow old-fashioned. So I grew up like that because I grew up in a village, So that helped me a lot because when I went to university, I was not that kind of a teenager who to love labels or stuff like that. So it was content that I had, and I saw I was fine. I was happy with the way I was. So I wasn't envious with what other girls were having, and my heart was not aching of me not having labels or wearing nice clothes like they used to have. So that contentment helped me a lot. And I think maybe one thing I forgot to mention, my mom got converted into Adventism when I was 8 years old. I was doing standard 2. Yeah, it was in 1998. So my mom, when she became an Adventist, she was huge on tithing.
Yeah.
From a young age, she taught me how to tithe. So whenever she gave me 10, she would actually bring an envelope and say, okay, Boka, you need to tithe your 1 bula. So from a young age, I learned how to tithe that even when I went to varsity, whenever I got my allowance, like Onka was saying, we were schooling the same university. So whenever I got my allowance, I knew that the first thing I had to do was to anything else.
Wow.
Because in the university, where we used to worship, we used to have like a community of students who used to worship. We used to call it UB Church, University of Botswana Church. Yeah. So I knew that when my 1.4 came, I had to tithe. And that has been my system throughout. And even before I got married, tithing was a deal breaker. I didn't want a husband who was not big on tithing.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll mute you again. But I'd rather mute yourself so that you can unmute whenever you want. But if I mute you, I can't. But if I mute you, I can unmute. Okay.
So should I mute myself?
Let me rather do it. But because you can already unmute yourself, I'm hoping. Okay, I want to pick up something that before we go on to the next item, that Koliswa said, that she says, my mother used to say, imali yasetyenzelwa mntanam, ufunde, uphangele, ube independent, ungaxhomekeki. In other words, you have to work for money, all right? So you must go to school and be independent so that you do not depend on somebody else for money. I thought that was powerful, all right? And I wanna bring this in the context. I think we also grew up with the same. But for me, from my home, the conversation about education and money was strong. But I think in many families, what we did not finish it with. So go to school and make money. But we didn't finish it with how then do you use that money? Number one. Number two, how then do you grow that money? And I will share my experience in that regard as well with regards to growing money. And then somebody from the Facebook group says, my dad taught us that we had to work for money, which is great. We had to pass at school in order to get nice stuff for groceries to take to boarding school. When we started getting allowances, we had to stretch it because we would not get more, all right? And now I'm not controlled as I spend a lot on my family and live on basics. I need to have more control. So there can be so many, and ladies, please keep them coming. There was a phrase when we grew up, and I saw it even with my older sisters. I remember one lady that I met here in PE, she was good at this. And that is the ability, I'm going to use the word in English, and then I'll give you the right words in Xhosa. And those of you who are from the Xhosa community, please back me up here. And the word is to stretch the rand, all right? That's the nice word, stretch the rand. But when we grew up, the word was uktukuceza, all right? Our mothers, ladies, and maybe our fathers as well, but of course, we learned a lot more from our mothers than our fathers. Our mothers had, and maybe still have, I won't lie to you, my mother earns 2,000 rand, it's social grant, but that woman can live off that money from the day she gets it to the next time, and she has extra. One of the things that they were very good at is the ability to stretch the rand. In other words, to work from, or the pula in this case, or the dollar, to be able to work within the money that they got. All right. So they would go and they were able to fit in some food. They were able to fit in some clothes. They were able to fit in. I remember often when my father would run out of money, and he would go to my mother looking for something. No, my mother she never worked. My father is the one that would work, would do this, would do that, and make money. My mother never worked. She would get something from him, but what she would get from him, she would use it, but she would keep some. So when this guy has run out, he goes to don't you have something? Like, she doesn't work. How does the man that works go and ask this one? But because she was able to somehow stretch the rent. Now that's beautiful. It means that we were taught by people that know how to. But side of that, and I want to hear from you. The flip side of that for me is that I didn't learn how to grow the rent. I did not. I did not learn how to grow the rent. I learned how to stretch the rent, such that if I fail to stretch the rent, then I landed myself in debt. We're going to talk about debt just now. So the two sides of it is beautiful. We learned how to stretch the rent within what you get. But if I now had to go over, find a way to go over, and this is the danger. We now live in the era where we can get a credit card. So I don't need to stretch the rent. I can just go to somebody money and fit in what I needed to fit in. I don't know if you've got any views on that. And ladies, please keep them coming as well.
Yeah, look, guys, how to grow the rand was never something that I was like told or educated or guided on. But that thing of we have to stretch it, we have to make it last. Yeah, no, that's a common thing. But I just wanted to share something that just popped up in the complex where I live. I think it was last week, if not the previous week. Two preteens come to the door and they knock. The one is 12 years old and the other one I think is 14 years old. And they come and knock and they say, "Hello, Auntie Nicky, we just want to share this with you." And they give me a A4 page, like from a book, but they tore it off, and I read this. And they've written a note to each one of us that they are in the school holidays starting a business. So for all of us that like to do our hair and that like to do our nails, we must come to their units, and it's 100 rand and it's 80 rand and it's 60 rand, whatever you want. And if they can help you to do your brows and if they can help you to put your lipstick, it's cute, man. It's cute little things. And they even write at the bottom of the page, this money will help us to save during the holidays for anything we might need when school reopens. And I'm like, huh? I never had these thoughts when I was at primary school, because they're still at primary school. And I'm like, yo, okay. So I said, okay, thank you. I'll come back to you. And then it's the mom's number, and the other one had a dad's number on it. And I'm thinking now, we didn't have that growing up. Or let me say me. I didn't even think of, the only thing I had growing up was a donation list from school that must go to school, or a raffle from school that must go to school, but I never had such thoughts. So things have really changed now to the time that we're living in. And then when I had now access to money that I can now control and that I can now manage, I started spending it. I started just doing because it's something that I never had before, like the control of my own money. So things have changed, and it was very cute for me to see these girls, but that's actually maybe the way to go.
Yeah. I think that conversation for most of us, and when I say us, really for most of the Black community, we were you had to go and get a job. Now, we're not talking anything bad about get a job. That was the only way to make money. But the challenge with but we'll talk about this next week. I think we've got Naomi was coming to talk about a young women and entrepreneurship, that word, or business opportunities, what they can do, what's available to them. But we were never taught that. We were taught that the only way to make money is to go to school and get a good job. But the problem with money that comes from a job is that the boss decides how much you can make. He decides how much you can make based on what you can afford. We've got a guest in our midst this morning. He decides how much you can make, but he does not know how much you are worth. All right, and that's the problem with employment and having your own money. But we'll talk more about that, about entrepreneurship next week as well, when we're now focusing on that. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to share a bit of maybe something that was unique to where I grew up. So for me, I grew up in a family of ladies who were selling. So my grandmother used to sell traditional beer, bread, clothes, and then that moved on to my mom. Then later on, they revolve even up to now. My mom, if she's visiting, when I used to work in Gaborone, if she comes to visit me, she wants to go and look for stuff to buy from the city to go and sell back home. If she grows something, she wants to go and she harvests and sells. So for me, the difference was that though I was not told, though yes, you need to get a good education so you get a good job, but the fact that I think for them, they thought because they didn't go to school, they needed to use their hands to make money. And I think for me, that helps us to grow up knowing that during holidays, I used to sell kadi. Boka would know what kadi is. Kadi is traditional beer made of some millet and muhwana. I don't know what muhwana in English is. So I used to sell that like as early as I was 8, 9. That also helped me with maths, right? It helped me to know my addition and my subtraction, because if you were to sell even kadi, it's liquid, but my grandma, even my mom, they knew that if you are selling a 25 liter, this is how much you need to make in a day. So if you miss on your change and stuff, you gotta beat him for that. Even for bread, you after school you have to change, you go to and sell under the tree, and the bread is already counted. You have to bring back this much. So that one is on. I think it helped one with maths, helped with to know that, oh, okay, so I can make my own money. So what we used to do then is during the school holidays, if I'm selling 25 liter for my mom or for my grandmother, then I also make my own on the side as well. So by the time I go back to school, I've got money from my caddy, and then I can buy some shoes or buy stuff. It transitioned that when I finished my standard 7, my aunt used to have a bakery. I used to work there as well. I bought myself some uniform to go to junior school. Even for senior school, I worked. Even for, I hope you can hear me, guys. I don't know
Yes, we
what
can
happened.
hear you.
Oh, okay. I don't. Yeah. So even for Form 5, the whole long vacation for Form 5, I was working. So when I went to university, I had some savings from there. So for me, it was a different of, people teaching you that, what, you have to work for the money. We didn't go to school, but you can go to school, get a good education and work. But the thing which I think I look back, I'm like, I need to do better is how can I, emulate that entrepreneurship that they have and the legacy that they have, because I'm more on, I want to save as much. I don't want to take risk if if the business fails or stuff like that. So yeah.
Or pass on because sometimes entrepreneurship is not always only about you owning your own business, but it is as somebody said, entrepreneurship is an attitude, is a posture, is a lifestyle. So and we live in an era where it can be done in many different ways. I want us to move on now to the topic of debt, and this is how I want to bring it. Again, we're going back to behavior. This is how debt was introduced in my life, and I want to have you hear your views on it. We grew up, Mosane. We grew up extremely poor, from a family of 8 children. So my parents had no debt. That's the good thing. My parents had no debt. They stretched the rent. My mother, even now,
life.
she does not. She does not. She does not. She doesn't even know how to pay a what. The only bills that she pays is insurances, funeral insurances, which maybe we'll talk about. But they had no debt. But then I had an older sister, all right? And this is not a judgmental conversation or whatever, but it's just observations. And not just only observing her, but observing our older sisters and brothers at that time. One of the beautiful things that we thought were beautiful then, when we would hear them talking about clothing accounts. When we grew up, there was Sales House. I'm trying to remember the other name of the clothing company, but there was Sales House. They had these beautiful accounts, clothing accounts. There was just something about it, even as the letter would come in. I don't know what it was, but they made it look so elegant. I mean, maybe I'm just crazy. It just looks so elegant that I'm going to go and pay at Sales House, or I'm going to get beggars. Oh, there was beggars. I remember Sales House because the flip side of it is that when I needed to go to boarding school, I was able to get clothes from my sister's Sales House account. So I remember that one. Sales House, I think, now has become Edcon and whatever. But beggars, there was beggars, there was Sales House, but there were these clothing shops that you could go and get money. And of course, the same thing for furniture. Yes, people are remembering these names. And the same thing for furniture, all right? Ellerins, when we grew up, it was Ellerins and all those other places. So if we wanted a couch, there was not a conversation that says, let's go and save money so that we can buy a couch. No, we can go and get it on hire purchase, and we paid in terms. We never looked into. I only really truly looked into it when we were older. I mean, I'll be honest here, when I did my MBA, it was a few years ago, that's like in my 40s, when we would sit and look at how much are you actually paying for that couch if you take it and pay it over 2 years versus what it was actually worth. We sometimes pay 3 times that. So I want us to talk about Llama Card. I mean, we have our wallets, just I can't bring it in now. Of course, now my wallet is full of these points cards from many places, but we have these cards. Now, what happened when I went to university? Before I could even work, and ladies, we have to talk about this as well. Certainly in South Africa, I think Ons and BK also alluded to it, that you guys got it earlier in your country where you could get allowances, where your country was paying for your education, where we now have that era. A couple of years ago, free education was introduced, where our young people at university, mostly from poor families, they now get allowances. I'm talking too much, I must keep quiet. They get allowances, they get paid books and everything, they get allowances. I lived in East London. There is a shop, let me not mention the shop. When you drive past that shop, you will see a flock of young people. You know that the allowances has been paid out. And I'm not talking about the grocery shop. I'm talking about the shop where it sells the bitter drinks. Our children are there in long queues because the salaries have paid out. Where I used to work at Stellenbosch, they would get at the beginning of the year, they would get their allowances for books, and it was told them that for books, for this. What do? They go and buy iPhones. Now they don't have money for books. That they have money to bought the iPhone. So the conversation can go on. But I want us to talk about the behaviors I observed. These beautiful cards, it looks so glamorous to have an account. What did I do? I went into university. At some point I did not have Tessa. It was Tessa then I got it. And now companies will come to the schools, Truex and all those guys. They have their little tables there, and we could open clothing accounts. Before I could even start working, I had how many? I don't know how many. I already had clothing accounts. So let's go into debt and talk about how we got into debt. What did you observe about debt? Because for me, I think that is one of the biggest issues right now. Right now, we are suffering from that.
It's a big problem. There's a saying, guys, that goes, if you didn't work for it, you would not appreciate it. You would just be wasting it and it would just fly, So for me, because I always had my mom that managed my finances, I never really planned on, should I open an account? This is how I'll manage it. This is how I'll do it. So the time I got control myself, it was like I'm being freed from a cage, and I just went on a spiral. And in the end, you now look and you think, okay, I've got 3 accounts now. I've got this money coming in. I don't have enough. I'm going to skip this one. I'm going to pay this one. I won't pay this one. And then next month, okay, I didn't pay that one. Let me pay that one now. And you end up in such a spiral, and debt is just increasing and piling up, and it's hectic. It's hectic. And just the other day, I spoke to a young lady, and it shocked me that the same mentality is still out there when it comes to debt. She mentioned that she doesn't worry. They can call her. She's just going to ignore the call. She's not going to pay them now until she saved up enough to pay one finish in bulk. But so if it takes her 5 months to save up the money to close the one account, that's what she'll do, and she'll ignore the others. And I'm like, but then that means at the credit bureau, while you are saving money, your credit is just, your rating is just going down. But she was like, there's nothing to it as long as I'm going to end up paying it. So we truly need more conversations and more education on how to manage our debt. Because if you never had it, and you now have access to money, and you're not educated on how to manage that money, you're going to go on a spiral. You're going to go treat yourself. You're going to go splash and buy what you don't even need to impress who you don't know. You know that statement? So, debt is something else. And for me, it got me in trouble. And I had to sit down and think, oh, how do I do this? I need to pay out so much money. And what I'm getting in, I want to keep. So more education needed on that subject.
Absolutely. And that's why we're having this conversation. It's not deep. It's not full. We're not going to be able to get into all of them. Maybe we must have somebody just on how, if you are now swimming in the sea of debt, what are the steps that you can maybe help you to swim out of it.
Out.
But one of the reasons we are having this conversation and being candid with it is we are saying to those of us who are young, my friend, if you can avoid some of these mistakes that we are using, please. One of the things I do I irritate them to bits. My young sisters, so my sister's younger friends, they know the first thing I hear, she got a job. I say, come here. Please do the following, live well below. If you can, if you are young and you're staying at home, my friend, imagine it. When you started working and you were staying at home, you had no rent, maybe you had a little bit of transport money. Imagine if we had managed when we were there. But yeah, we can't go back, we can't roll back the time, but we can at least share. All right, as we are trying to get ourselves back to there. PK, you look like you want to say something, so I'm going to unmute you. You've now muted yourself.
That's it.
Right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So with that, I wanted to say, Beauty, when I was talking about furniture shops, growing up when I was very young in our home village, people will come to Maun and buy sofas and stuff for the house and stuff. So I will see my neighbors, after a couple of months or a couple of years, you'll see the furniture shop cars coming to take back the things.
Yeah.
And I'll ask my mom, what's going on? And my mom will be like, no, they failed to pay that thing, that furniture item or whatever, So I was dreading that happening to our home. And fortunately, it never happened. So that helped a lot because my mom would tell me, whenever you are getting something from the furniture shop, get what you are able to pay or what you are able to afford. And if possible, try and avoid a higher purchase. Like you can rather buy. I think it's something that I learned from my elder sister as well, because I lived with her during my university years. So she didn't have clothing accounts. And yes, it was very common even during our time when we were at universities. Yes. So she taught me how to lay by. I know a lot of people, they don't know that a lot. I don't know so that you guys know it, but lay by. Yes. So she taught me that, okay, Boka, you'd rather lay by than open a clothing account. So you lay by, you more like if maybe you want 2,000 pila worth of clothes, and they'll say 10% lay by, you only pay 200 pila, and then you pay that those clothes in 3 months. After 3 months, you get your clothes. See, so that way it helps you to avoid, getting a credit card or a clothing account, and then I don't know, like I've never had a clothing account. I think it's something that I was scared of, because my sister would be like, people will be having that and they wouldn't be able to pay the debt. So I've been lay buying since. I would lay by for my husband, for my kids. You know how boys' clothes are expensive, and even for my clothes. I think it has been my system and it has helped me a lot. So more like trying to avoid that by all costs.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Actually, our parents did that, BK. If I now remember, we used to get, remember Christmas clothes. You guys don't know if you had Christmas clothes. Our Christmas clothes were lay bought. My mother used to lay buy from Pep stores. So Pep stores, Jumbo, they would go and lay buy your Christmas clothes. And then if you're going to school the following year, they know you need shoes, they know you need this, and they go and lay buy your. That's actually it still exists, my friend. It still exists. I know in one of the projects that I'm doing now, we fund students with uniforms, but we go to Ackermans. We lay by, and then they go and they fit everything in, and then we go and get it. That's actually something beautiful that you've reminded us of. It still exists, PK. It still exists. I don't know how many shops still do it though, because they don't make money from it immediately, but. Well, they do, but they don't earn so much interest from it. Onks?
Yeah. I mean, the topic of debt is a bit sensitive for me because it's one thing that it's one thing that I really. I mean, I don't know where I got it from, but I guess maybe from my parents or somehow that you have to live within your means. If I can't afford a Louis Vuitton today, then that's it. there's no need for me to get in debt to get that. And
Yeah.
like Boka, I've never had shop clothes. We they used to come to university as well. Your Jet, your Edgar's, your Foshin.
Yeah.
They used to come. But for some reason I was like, why should I get in debt for clothes? Do I really need clothes?
Yeah.
Do I really need them? So I think for me,
Yeah.
debt is more around, why do I need this debt? Why do I
Yeah.
need to indebt myself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Right? And if we started asking ourselves that, we'd realize that actually clothes, how many clothes do you need?
You
You
need,
know,
yeah.
you have got so many clothes in the wardrobe. Why do you want to get in debt to get more
Yeah.
clothes or to
Yeah.
get the new trend when you
Yeah.
can wait? You can
Yeah.
actually wait for those trending clothes. In 6 months, the prices
Yeah.
will be down than they are
Yeah.
today. You can buy then. Or
How
you know what?
else?
You can even buy the second-hand clothes. They are cheaper. You don't have to get in debt. And I
Mm.
think if this one thing if there's one thing I could share with a young person listening now is, when it comes to debt, ask yourself, why do I need this debt?
Why need it?
Why do I need a credit card? A credit card is an unending personal loan.
Hey.
That's
Yeah.
it. It's an
Mm.
unending personal loan, because
Yeah.
as long as you are using it, it means
Mm.
it's actually you are getting a loan. It's just that it's
Yeah.
a small amount of loan that you are getting, and you have to pay
Yeah.
it with interest anyway. The
Yeah.
question is, why do you need it for? I
Yeah.
mean, we live in some countries where, like in the UAE, the school fees are very expensive. A
Mm.
credit card can be a very useful thing to pay for your child's school fees, and then you pay it within 3 months, then it's better. You
Yeah.
rest for a little bit, the 3 months, the next 3 months you pay again, then you pay it off. That way, even the interest is lower. But if you're getting a credit card just to go on holiday, just
Mm.
to spend
Yeah.
unnecessarily, then that's a
Yeah.
bad debt. So if you are
Mm.
getting a personal loan, a no matata, what are you getting it for? If you are
Yeah.
getting it to buy a plot, or if you are getting it to help your parents build, that's a good debt. But if you are
Yeah.
getting it for personal spending, then that's a
Yeah.
bad debt. You
Yeah.
don't need
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
I think for me, if we can learn to differentiate that, do I really need this debt? Why do I
Yeah.
need it for?
Yeah.
For what kind, for how long? Because there are people, beauty, it's very sad, who are living on this normal tata way. They get a normal tata today.
Mm.
Within 3 months, or even a month, they've finished that normal tata. They
Mm.
start paying. After 3 months, they've got a little space. They come back again, even if it
Yeah.
means 30,000 rand. They come and get 30,000. So it becomes a roller coaster
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
the normal
ongoing.
data throughout your life, such that by the time you are 10 years working, there's nothing to show for your 10 years of time you invested working, yet
Mm.
there is nothing tangible to show off. And I think for me, one of the things also that my grandmother used to say is, if you are working, you ought
Mm.
to have something. Either you
Yeah.
buy a cow or you buy a big pot. My grandmother used to collect stuff, so she would have bigger pots. People come and borrow from us. She used to buy even cows, though, because she was a
Yeah.
woman, she got treated somehow. But she would tell you, while in this so and so year, I sold so much and I bought a cow from so and so person. So for me, I think that built in me to say, if I have money, I have to
Mm.
have something tangible to show for it. If I've
Yeah.
been working for 10 years, I have to sit down and think,
My
in these
friend.
10 years, what
Mm.
have I really made for myself from the hard work that I've been doing? So if you
Mm.
are a young person out there, even the allowance, can you believe it that with my allowance, I helped my parents to put electricity in our house, because in the
Mm.
village, it come later at our village. With allowance, I went to stay off campus just for 2 semesters,
Mm.
and with that 2 semesters, I saved enough to pay for the electricity connection and
Mm.
continue to pay I think the monthly installment I used to pay like 200 pula until I finished
Yeah.
it over 3 years. So with
Yeah.
allowance, before I even started working. So if you're getting an allowance, it's not that you have to just use it for your food, clothes.
Yeah.
Yes, those are basics, but still within that allowance, you can
Yeah.
still do something tangible out of it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
thinking about now, guys, is this thing of overcompensating for something that was beyond our control. Now
Ah.
we're trying to catch up with people and with things, and we actually just need discipline, and we need to learn from other people who made those mistakes, and not there's no reason for us to make the same mistakes. My sister, my older sister, we always thought, deputy parent, the oldest one is always the deputy parent.
I
And
know.
we looked at her, and she is so disciplined, and when she got her first car, it was a wow, we can't wait to get our car. And she would always tell us, work at your own pace, things happen at your time, don't look at me because I've already done this, I've finished these studies, you must still get there. And that's the mistake we make in life, because I'm starting to work and I've seen my friends that I've maybe finished school with, and they've already got this and that. Now I get myself into so much debt to dress the way they're dressing, to look the way they're looking. And we just need to learn that at the right time it's going to happen for me as well. Then we don't need to this day, I thank God that I do not own a credit card, guys. I'm scared of that thing, because to have money available to you like that, it scares me. So I don't want one. And we should think, when we think, I want this, why do you want it? Is it because you want to prove a point? Is it because you want to compensate for something? But just sometimes think about it, man. And yes, stay in your own lane, like someone is saying. Let's stay in our own lane. At your own time, it's going to happen for you, and you don't need to be like anyone else. Just do you.
Yeah, I think we of course, time just never leaves us. The topic is big and it's broad and it's deep. So one thing we will not do here is cover it in great detail, but we've covered quite a lot. I've been putting the comments, but I do want to just pause and actually just read some of them, just so that people know. Somebody said, I just remembered my cousin once managed beggars. And Lunati says, it used to fascinate me when a working lady would open her purse full of cards, all right? But now we know what it is, right? A sign of indebtedness. But then when you were young, you thought to yourself, the next thing, when I have money, my friend, I'm going to buy myself that. I was telling my husband the other day, there was cake I used to love, but I was poor, so I would only get this cake from somebody who would share. The day I started money, I ate that cake, and then I stopped it. And then I saw it a couple of weeks ago, like, that cake, it had such meaning. So sometimes the things we buy or do, we are trying to answer to something that, or when you grew up and they used to, what's the word? There's something like, the day I have money, I'm going to eat that thing until. So we are trying to answer to something. So money is not just the issue of finance. It's deeper. It's emotional. The whole issue of money. Somebody says they had an Edgar's account from Fort Beaufort as a Fort Hare student. Bad move. Okay, it's not nice to have to pay an account with your pocket money. Now the money is there, you have to pay. Somebody says debt. Kudizo says debt makes you frustrated. So what we need is to discipline ourselves, save and buy in cash. Because it cuts out on interest. I'm not going to talk about people who overslept. I'll say nothing about that. Somebody says, and sometimes we buy things we don't really need. And I think what we do need to, when we walk away from this conversation, ladies, as mothers, as older sisters, I think what we do need to do is have that internal conversation. One, if you are already in debt, you are there now. Perhaps the first question is, how did I get here? Because if we don't, and I'll speak from personal experience, if you don't, you will get back in. You will work your way out of it. If you don't address the why, the internal work that causes you to land into debt, then you're going to find yourself back in debt again. So you're going to live your life in that cycle of debt. Let me see. Somebody's asking that same thing comment. It's about really asking why do I need this? Do I need it? And I think we need to talk about that. But in one of the sessions, we're going to talk about a young woman and beauty, because in the definition of beauty, we've gone into, you're not just beautiful that you are dressed smart and you're wearing nice clothes, but beauty also has, now the world is social media, of course, but the world in general has defined beauty not only in what you're wearing, but in the price of what you're wearing. And so some of us feel inadequate to just wear something that looks nice and neat. It also needs to have a certain label, and the label comes with a high cost. Now, of course, we don't speak against those who can afford those things, but sometimes people go into it because they're trying to look in a particular way. So I say, so there's a lot. Somebody says, yeah, this is big. The worst is when you get offered debt because you can afford. Okay. Yeah. I mean, how many of us have gotten the phone call? How many of us have gotten the phone call?
They
that you
just
are
have your number. Sure.
you are pre-approved for a loan of 150,000. They've done the maths because our information is out there. You are pre-approved for a loan. You didn't think about a loan when you woke up, but somebody calls you that day and they've approved you for a loan, and the next thing you think, I could actually do with a loan. Anyway, even for building, I think somebody was commenting to what you had said, Onka, about, if you maybe take money to build. But she says, even for building, buy card and loan money. Black tax is one of the things that can lead to debts. I'm not sure if I understand the question, but I certainly get the issue of black tax. I can tell you, I don't like the word black tax, but it exists and I understand where it comes from. One of my first accounts when I started working now was I took an account. I forget the name of the shop, to buy building materials for my parents' home. It took me years to pay the thing off, but I had a clear thing as to why that is. Again, was that the best way to do it? I'm not sure, but that was done. Okay. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. Keep them coming. We may not be able to put everything over here, but we will just keep putting them up. We may not be able to read all of it, but please, thank you so much. Ladies, I want us to now sort of try and tilt it towards the end. But before we do that, I want us to talk about money and relationships. All right. And by relationships, most of us here are married or have been married. The context is in the context of marriage. But before we get into that, and that is for us, and I'm speaking again, we are speaking about to ourselves, but speaking also to our young ladies. The need for us as women, certainly as young women, but also as us, to take, what is what I'm looking for? To not be passive, but I'm looking for a positive word, because I don't want to come in from a negative, but to also take responsibility to be involved in money matters. And when we do that, when we are single, when you come into a marriage setting, you are then also able to continue to be involved there. It's because we've seen it happen sometimes that when we get married, look, there was a school of thought. I didn't have it from my home, but there was a school of thought. Many of you will know that school of thought that says, you get yourself a good man, then they'll take care of you. In other words, you are not even in charge of earning your own money. Just get someone to earn money, and yours is to learn how to use their money. There was that school of thought. It has come back. We have a concept here of blessers and blessees and all of those things. But the problem with that concept is that it takes you as a woman out of the equation in terms of financial responsibility. And I'm not just talking about responsibility to earn the money, but be part of the decision making as to how the money is used in the relationship. All right, because sometimes, and I've seen it happen, sometimes we come into a marriage, you are working, he's working, but we become so passive that the marriage falls completely apart. It's terrible, but you can't leave because you've lost control of the money. So you need to stay here purely for the money because you've lost control of the money. So this might be a sensitive topic. We may not be able to go deep into it, but I just thought that let me hear your views on that in terms of what is the opposite of passive?
Joint. Oh.
But I'm trying not to be negative, that we mustn't be passive when it comes to issues of money. In most cases, and I love what Chris was saying here. In most cases, our husbands are more disciplined. I often say that when my husband and myself met, I earned more and he earned less. He had much more money than I did. He used to help me out so often. So they tend to be more disciplined. But does it mean that we fold our hands and we say, the guy's money, taking care of everything? Let me start with you, BK. Otherwise, we might just forget about you.
All right. Thank you, Beauty. Well, remember at first I said that when I got married, tithing was like a deal breaker for me. So before I got married, because now we're talking about relationships, money was also a big factor. So before I wanted to know the financial status of that man, whether they have debts or stuff like that, their spending habits, and But I would say I'm blessed to have a husband who is big on saving, and my husband is a better spender. Like when you compare the two of us, Beauty, I love shopping. I think it's one thing that I'm still working on. I love shopping. Shopping makes me
all of us.
So my husband is like, like he neutralizes that, So with him, he's like save, 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 save. So he's big on saving. So he taught me how to save. And even when we had our kids, where I'm teaching, the school fees is very, very expensive. So he said, when our babies were like even before a month old, he was like, let us start saving for school fees right now. We open accounts for them when we had our first baby. So we've been saving even before they turned 1 year or 4 years or whatever. So by the time our child started preschool, because we're not going to afford that school fees just from our pockets. So when they first started that, we were able to afford that because we've been saving throughout the years and we have never stopped saving. So I think it taught me how to save, And then the other thing is transparency in marriage. So we budget together, like he's running a business. So every day he will come and show me how much he's made. And then because I have a pay slip and the money reports into my account. So we have learned to be transparent with our income and budget together. And that is something that is very, very important as a couple. So I would say I'm blessed to have such a man. And one last point that I want to say, Beauty, is, growing up when we're attending courtship seminars and relationships and stuff like that, we're taught that women, you are economists. Like you are the one controlling the money and like more like tracking the expenditure of the home and stuff like that. So, but then at the same time, spiritual mom will tell me that even though the quotation is saying this, if the husband is better at managing money, like, he's able to budget, keep track, it's okay. I'm saying this because my husband is very good at budgeting and he's very good at sticking to the budget as compared to me. So
he's the economist.
Yeah, like I said, Beauty, I'm naturally a spender, but he's not a spender. I'll go to the shop and I love buying. It does something to my heart. Like I'll feel so happy. But he knows that whenever I go shopping, I'm the happiest.
I know.
But he's more disciplined. He's the one in charge of the savings, and he helps me to manage my money better. Like when I look at the way I spend, like our income, much better. Our savings, even the goals, even the way he's growing his business. So I think, he's more like the strongest one when it comes to managing finances. But it's very important to be transparent as a couple, and very important to budget together is the main thing, and also to track your expenditure and save, especially for school fees. Yeah.
I love that. There's so many powerful BK. Transparency, I think, being the main one, but also knowing your strengths, okay, in the marriage settings. And it can be the other way around. Sometimes you may be married to somebody who doesn't mind spending and you are the one who is not. So trying to balance that. I absolutely love that. And we're all laughing. I know, I love shopping. I love shopping. And sometimes you get into trouble. You feel so good when you buy it and you fit it on or whatever. Sometimes it's food, Food. Yeah, we must talk about food. We must talk about food. We spend so much money on food. It feels good. And then you look, my father used to say, you don't spend 1,000 rand on food. That was then. Of course, you can't not spend 1,000 rand. But he used to be very upset with my mother. 1,000. She says, no, Zugil, 1,000 on food. Of course, today is like, he wasn't buying food at some point. But the emotional attachment to buying, again, we may not be able to go into that. Sometimes it's just that. It's just that it feels good. And you don't think at that time. Maybe you are thinking it just from your heart. So you are not doing the maths. You're not adding 1 + 1. You just, I see it. It feels good to buy it. Until when you're looking down at your spreadsheet, oops, it's not adding up. Onka or Nicky, I'm not sure.
I wanted to just say something that I wanted to say something that Boka really touched on, which I think we overlook most of the time when it comes to relationship, is understanding your financial status as a person and the next person that you need to get into a relationship with. We go for HIV testing, we go do personal testing and whatever, personal behavior, compartment and whatever, all that. But we forget to talk about money. What is your relationship with money?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you see
And
someone
what
on
debts
Sabbath.
do you currently have? Before you
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because many a times we make decisions based on this person is wearing a suit coming to the church on Sabbath. We don't
Yeah.
ask, this suit, was it really bought with cash or on
Still paying
credit?
for this.
You know. And then one other mistake that we make as young women is someone is proposing to marry you, right?
Yeah.
We never ask, show me, you know, I'm very extreme now. Show me
Yeah.
your bank statement. If you're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
marry me, show me your bank statement. How much do you
The
have? You know, how much do you have? You know, we think that, you know, just
Oh,
because
Ogs.
I know this person is a you know,
things
is
are
from
right.
church. Yeah.
Mm.
If we can go and check for HIV test, why can't we check the financial status? It's
Yeah. Yeah.
important. Money is
Mm.
important in the relationship, in the home, right?
Oh,
Mm.
deal
And I
breaker.
think that is really one thing. If you are a young person and you are dating, check on that financial status of that person.
Yeah.
Check their saving habits, their spending habits. What is their views about money? What is their views about investment? What is their views about, you know, where are you going to stay? Where are you going to live? Are you going to rent? What is their views about, you know, education? Things like, because a lot of time, as especially as Black people, is we want to live like life like we it's like an emergency, you know. Why should you go and borrow money to pay rent? Rent
Mm.
is a basic thing. It could
Yeah.
mean that one, either you are living in a house that you can't afford and you need
Mm.
to downgrade and live in a one room if it means that, right?
Yeah.
Why do you have to run around? It's school term, you are running around borrowing money for school fees. It could mean
Yeah.
that you don't afford that school, then look for a better school or go to a government school. Take your child to a government school. It is okay. And I think we should start having those honest conversations with
Yeah.
ourselves, or even as a couple.
Yeah.
Let's face it, baby,
Yeah.
we can't afford, you know, Westwood today, or we can't afford so and so high
This
school,
car. Oh, this
you
car.
know,
We can't
or
this car.
this car. If we need
God.
to drive a Honda Fit, let's drive a Honda Fit. It is okay.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the moment we become honest with ourselves,
Mm.
especially the Adventist community, there is a bit of unwritten competition in our
Yeah.
Yo,
community.
I
true.
know. True.
It's very unfortunate. It's an unwritten competition, and many a times we put that burden on ourselves. No one
Yeah.
actually is judging you that you are driving a Honda Fit. Just because when you come to church, you pick your Honda Fit, you look at
Look
the rest of
around.
the cars, it's Benz, Range Rover, you know, and then there's a bit of unwritten competition. And if you are going to succumb to the competition, that unwritten competition of Adventism, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, my younger sister, you're gonna go down. So
Yeah.
learn to be okay to, you know what, this is me, this is what I can afford. Yes, I'm an Adventist. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean all Adventists need to look rich. Because many
Yeah.
a time, 90% of the time, we're just looking rich. We are not rich.
Getting debt so that we can look rich. Actually, Nikki, before
Yo,
I come to you, I just want to laugh at Masavata here, who says she's an emotional spender. I feel I've had to teach myself this. I have not transcended. I still need prayers. When I'm stressed,
Ooh.
I look. If I can't go to the restaurant, my fridge has got to help me. You know, I'm an emotional eater and spender. It feels good. But then the flip side of it is that when you have recovered emotionally from whatever it is, now you have the guilt of what you spent or that you overate because you were trying to heal something. But I just I'd laugh. I'm sure you're not the only one with that. Nikki, I'm going to come to you. But you know, Onks, you said so many things. And I think we are, most of us are mothers here, guys. And we are raising sons. And maybe we must talk about that. We are raising sons who are going to be, and some of our sons are old enough to now be proposing relationships that may lead to marriage to other young women. I think one of the things that we also need to teach the gentlemen is to be authentic. Because sometimes they also make a wrong impression in trying to get points and collect points with this young person. They make a wrong impression of being able to afford or that they look expensive, they look like they have lots and lots of money, create the wrong impression. Can't they were trying to impress this particular one, and in that process of trying to impress this particular one, they've gotten themselves into debt And now that debt they will bring into the relationship. So we need to also speak to our sons and our brothers and our young brothers and our male friends that, you know what, one of the best things that you can do in a relationship is be authentic, is be genuine. Right? So that they fall in love with you, not what you portray, not the suits that you're wearing or the car that you're driving, because they may not know. Again, we are by no means speaking against wealth guys and good things. There are people that I know who genuinely can afford things. They've got lots of money and but sometimes we get ourselves into so much trouble trying to create a certain impression, and you can't sustain it. That's the problem. Sooner or later it catches up with you. Nikki?
I'm thinking of that saying that says charity begins at home. So, in order for us to have our sons grow up with this mindset, we have to be honest with them. When we don't have the money for what they're asking for, we need to say, I don't have that money, my child. This is what we need to do. This is what we have. This is what we can afford. And with God's help, they'll probably grow up with that mindset. I'm hoping so, because I do try and be open and honest in the house. When my son would ask for this and that, I would say, I can't do that now. And he's getting to the age now where he understands and stop nagging and pushing for the same thing, but we can talk. So I think those open conversations will help us. But what I wanted to mention, in 2009, when we got married, before we got married, I was told, you need to pay off, I'll help you close all your accounts. We don't want any accounts and all debt entering into the marriage. And that was a good thing, and that's what I did. But I kept one, this one that I liked. And closer
Tiny
to
little
the marriage, I was like, I kept this one. Phew, he was not happy at all. But we paid it, but I never closed it, And this conversations in marriage is very important, because there's this little demon, I want to dare to call it, that is called community of property. And that thing, whatever debt you bring, whatever thing you go and do, it's actually the both of yours
Everybody's
headache
dead.
at the end of the day. And we are not having enough conversations about this subject matter as well, where we need to understand, if I see this dress and this dress is 950 rand, and I think I'm loving this, but I know I don't need this, I just want this now. If I cannot pay off this dress, he's going to sit with that stress, So we need to think of the financial decisions that we are making in our homes, because should one, God forbid, but should one die, you might get these shocks and come up with all these statements and things that are coming via the post that you now need to sit with and settle with. And even upon divorce, if you are sitting with a lot of debt, what do you then actually get? Because the only thing that you need to now sit down is paying off the debt, paying your debt. So this thing of community of property, out of community of property accrual, those conversations also need to start happening more amongst us, where we bring some education, because in marriage we can actually do more harm than good about this thing of wanting something that we don't need.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, now, Nikki, you are bringing something that's a whole other discussion, and it needs to be had, because it used to be, my husband and myself were reflecting on that, is that, especially for those of us who are in business, that actually out of community is actually safe. Because if you are in community of property and you can create debt for each other without, not even with the malice now, but if you are, so there's so many conversations. That's a big wing of this conversation now. One about debt and good and bad debt and how to get out of debt for those of us who are swimming in debt. Those are conversations to be had. And I think now we need to bring it to a close. It's not done. It's not finished. All right. So we will have another conversation, a different aspect of it. But we need to bring it to a close. Now, and here's how I want us to look at it. The last point that I want us to look at in terms of our view of money, our posture of money from the Christian perspective. Okay, we at the Theatre of Grace are a community of women powered by the grace of God who are living our lives, trying to live the best life. But the whole issue of John 10 verse 10, I have come that they might have life and have it abundantly. We believe that, we are pursuing that, powered by the grace of God. So all of these discussions that we are having, we are trying to help each other in that pursuit. We are trying to help each other in that pursuit. So it comes from a Christian perspective. Now, one of the challenges within the Christian context is the whole issue of money itself now. Not just the use of money, but money itself. I sometimes feel that we are almost afraid as Christians to have a lot of money. We are afraid, and we judge those who have a lot of money. Somehow we start to suspect them. They must be doing something, they must be selling something, or we give them a certain title. And that this comes, of course, from the misunderstanding of the verse, the love of money being is the beginning of evil, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, and yeah, so sometimes, and I want us not to just get your views on that, on how do we view money and those who have money and having lots of money, riches. The other verse, in my language, that other verse, it was a parable that Jesus was telling, that now, Nicky, I hope you can translate this, but there's a verse that says, for his that verse about a rich man, for a rich man to go to heaven, it's like taking an elephant and pushing it through a needle. I hope you guys get it, but my language is drowned. His thoughts is like, and everybody's like, I want to get to heaven, so I can't amass wealth, because if I do that, we're going to talk more about that when we talk about entrepreneurship. If I amass wealth, then I'm going to struggle to get through the whole of the, I'm going to be like that elephant. Everybody's running away from Linkangulu that stops us from going to heaven. I'd like to hear your views on that in terms of the posture towards riches now, towards wealth, based on our Christian beliefs. Anybody can go. Or shall I start with?
Go first.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me go first and say that it's a myth to believe that being rich is sinful, right? It's not biblical. God says, seek you first the kingdom of God, and all things shall be added unto you. So if all things means even wealth, and the other verse that I like is God owns everything. So if my father owns everything, actually I personally feel that the billionaires should be Christians, because we belong to a father who owns everything. Okay. So for me, I believe that as a Christian, we have to be rich. We have to live better lives. We can't be poor. Otherwise, how can I preach that God provides everything and yet I'm poor? It doesn't make sense. So for me, I believe that as a Christian, we have to be wealthy. Okay. One, I think the challenge that we don't get to is how do you use the riches, or how have you acquired the riches? If you are a child of God and I'm running a business, my business should be not found cutting corners to evade tax. I'm cutting corners so that I don't pay what is due to Caesar, right? I'm cutting corners to get tenders. I'm paying bribes to get tenders. Then accumulate wrong wealth that can be busted in a day or so, as soon as investigators come after me, right? But if I'm a Christian, then I have to run a business with good principles, with truthfulness, with honest. I treat people well. My employees know that I value them as human beings. I don't see them as slaves. Why? Because they are made in the image of God. So I run my business such that it's a business that, I pay people well. They work for me. I treat them well. And as a business, I help in the community. I use the riches to help the community. For me, I think as an Adventist church, we actually need wealthy, true, and honest Christians to move the gospel forward. We need money to move the gospel, guys.
My friend.
Even this, we need money to run these ministries, right? We need money to run the Adventist schools. We need money so there is no way money can be evil. I think it is our attitude towards money that is wrong. But if we are Christian and we really have got godly principles in us and we live them, we're going to run better businesses. I will just close with one thing that I've observed with. I'm not. I'm just using this as an example. Our Muslim fellow religious people, these are very disciplined people. If you see how they run their business, if it's time for prayer, they put closed for prayer. They are not ashamed to close for that 10 minutes or 15 minutes and pray. That's
Close
how
for
they
prayer.
take their religion. They take their religion everywhere. Such that, you know what, when you get into the shop, you know that this shop belongs to a Muslim. At this such and such time, if you come, you won't find
Close.
it open. They are closed, they are praying. I wish I could find more hotels, more
Hey.
restaurants, more schools, more anything that I get there. Oh, thank you, dear customer. It's Sabbath. We are closed.
Close
We
to
would
the
love
Sabbath.
to serve you
Wow.
from Sunday to Friday. You know, we get here. Oh, welcome. There is a Bible waiting for me there. There is a devotional there. You know, such that we live our Christianity even in our businesses. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, we've got two lives. There's the
Yeah, we
life
take
I put on Sabbath, and
Mm.
then after Sabbath at my business, I'm the worst boss. You
Yeah.
know, I steal from innocent people. You know, I'm not fair. So I believe that as a Christian, I have to have riches because my God owns them.
Hey,
Come on now.
I,
Hey, thanks. I love the way you put it. I love it. And guys, Christianity is a high calling. And if we cannot apply it in every area in our lives, we need to check up. We're failing. I like
yeah.
how Solomon puts it in that verse, Proverbs 21, verse 20. Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a
Oh,
foolish man devours it. And
mm,
sometimes we can really live up to this, what did we named it earlier, this unspoken competition amongst us,
yeah,
as a movement.
mm,
It change begins with a person in the mirror. So if each one of us that was part of this conversation today
mm,
can purpose in our hearts that we're not going to have this whole walk about us that we're better than the other, we can
mm,
kill that thing. We can
yeah,
kill it, and it can be something of the past. And if
yeah,
we can only apply Christianity and its values in every area of our lives, God
mm,
will bless every effort we put our hands to.
yeah,
And definitely, money is needed. Money
mm,
is needed in the church of God. You touched one of my absolute passions, Adventist education. We need money there. So
mm,
money is not wrong. To have money is not evil, to possess it, but it's the use of that money.
mm,
And I personally believe it's because we don't go about it the right way that we
mm,
don't use it the right way.
yeah,
So let's make the change, and let's be the change that we want to see
mm,
concerning money and its management in the church of God and for the work of God, and put it where it can make a difference. But some of us, we want people to come and approach us one on one, because I am the CEO of my company. So if a call is made, I won't necessarily say, let me assist you guys. I will wait in my seat of power for people
mm,
to approach, and we need to
hey,
change that about us. If God
mm,
has blessed us, and once again it comes in, if we went about acquiring it the right way, if
mm,
God has blessed us, we will be using it in the right way, in His way, for His work. So
mm,
definitely, thank you so much. It was great to be part of this topic. We are
mm,
also here to be educated. We don't know everything, and it's our
mm,
experiences that guides us. And may
mm.
God help us when we work with money and how we acquire money, to remember Him and the
Yeah,
right way.
hey, we're trying to be better. Thank you. BK, you are unmuted.
Yes. When you asked that question, Beauty, that text came to me, the one that you say about
Mm,
the needle and the rich man.
yeah,
How it's easier for that verse.
yeah,
I grew up hearing that verse a lot, and I think it made us scared to become rich.
yeah,
Like maybe saying, thinking that maybe money, being rich is somehow evil or something like that.
mm,
But then, because times are changing, and the way Onka and Nicky has said that we need money. We need money
yeah,
for God's work to go ahead, and whenever there's church building that comes, and I wish I had lots of money to just donate so that you can do
mm,
the house of God. You know what I'm saying? But then
yeah,
at the same time, I'm happy that at least our views and
mm,
the way we perceive money as Adventists is somehow changing. Um, if God is the owner of silver, he says silver and gold are mine. So we shouldn't be scared of having money. When you look into the Bible, we have great men who were rich. You know, Abraham was rich. Job was rich. And then when you look at Job's profile, God will say that Job was a man who was full of integrity. So I think, like Onka was saying, it's our attitude when we have money. You know, when we have money, we start to change. We don't have integrity. We feel like we don't need God and stuff like that. But Job was a rich man. And after he went through that trial, God even gave him more of what he had. But he was a prayerful man. He was a man full of integrity. We have Solomon who was rich. We have Abraham who was rich. So whenever I pray, you know how we fast on Wednesdays, and then you say, let us pray bold prayers. I'm not scared of praying bold prayers when I come to God. And I'm saying, God, if you feel that riches are for me, I'm happy to receive them. I want to be if you feel like I'm going to be rich and I can still worship you and it won't affect my spirituality, then Lord, give it to me, because you know my heart. So I think maybe somehow most people are getting rich because they know what maybe that's sort of what money will do to them, because you know how people are rich and they are proud, you know. And then maybe the other thing is how we treat the people who are rich in our churches or circles. I don't know, so that is common in South Africa. But you know, in church, when someone is rich beauty, they're given high positions, they are praised, you know. They're the ones who are recognized, you know. Like people have gathered, they'll be mentioned. This one is the CEO, he's the chief principal of whatever. You know, and then others will feel like, oh my goodness, who are we? You know? So I think maybe we shouldn't hype it up that much, because it will feel, others will feel like they're nobodies, you know. But all in all, what I'm trying to say is that, like Onka was saying, there is nothing wrong with being rich. You know, God is saying that you should be head and not the tails. So if we are running businesses, let us use the principles of heaven to run them, and let us not be scared of being rich.
Absolutely. This has been a beautiful, eye-opening, candid as well. You know, honest conversation, fruitful. I've learned so much, but I've been challenged as well. And I'm hoping that everybody that has joined us also feels the same way. So what we'll do is we're going to just give each of you now literally 1 minute, because we're now on 8:30. Just 1 minute to just have your closing remarks. I'll start with BK and then I'll go to Onks. Nicky, I'll finish with you, because when you are done, you can then also pray for us to close. Okay. But before we do that, so our next conversation, I'm not sure if it's next Sunday, but on the topic of money, is we're going to talk about young women and entrepreneurship. In other words, generating money, generating income. So we were deliberate in closing with the posture. Now that we know that the thousand hills with cattle belongs to God, that God does not mind us being rich, we need to then look at how do we make money in addition to earning money. Because remember, when you have a job, you earn. All right. Your boss pays you what they can afford, but they may not pay you what you are worth. All right. How do we then generate income? How do we make more money so that we can be able to live out our lives, but also to do the things that are required from us? So thank you everybody for joining us, but I will let you know which is when. So in terms of announcements, we meet again on Wednesday. All right. Wednesday, early morning, 4:30 a.m. We meet for devotion, and on Wednesdays we fast. All right. And then but that happens in the Theatre of Grace group, Facebook group, the Wednesday stuff. And then we'll meet again next Sunday for another Grace Talks. But you will see the announcement that's running across the screen. I'm going to repeat it again, okay? We've been able to add a little bit of additional space. I say plus minus 50 for our Theatre of Grace conference, okay? And in that 50, the big chunk of that is for day visitors. But we do still have a little bit of room at the hotel for those who want to come in and stay there, all right? When we went up there with my lioness, we were able to say, okay, because they had given us a 300 capacity, it looks like now we can put in a little bit more. I don't know about you, my friend, but if there's been people who have been inboxing me, asking me questions and trying to decide whether or not to go, if I were to choose for you, I would tell you, come to the Theatre of Grace conference. It's a life-changing experience. It truly is. Truly, truly, truly. I'm not saying that because I have the privilege of leading this community, but I know it. Our lives are just never the same after that experience. Unfortunately, Ong's too far, but you can just get yourself a flight and be here, my friend. But one of these days, I'm sure you will be. Nicky is coming, BK. They are driving all the way from Maun to Johannesburg. So I don't know if you want to miss it, but please move and move quickly. Now, let me say this in that regard, okay? Don't just, the links are open, so I've kept the links open, but don't just register on the link and expect it to stand there, because you need to secure your space by paying the registration fee, okay? On that note, the space that's available, like I said, it's for day visitors. Again, there's like only about 50 or so. You have to register and pay for your space as a day visitor. Don't wait until October to say, okay, can we just come? Because we do not have capacity to say, okay, day visitors can just come on the day or just on those 3 days because they are local. So to my Joburg sisters that are coming, register and pay so that you can know that your space is secured. Ladies, this was beautiful. I've enjoyed this conversation so much. I thank God that you came in and you played full out and you gave us. I've learned so much from each of you. I think we need to have another one where we talk about debt, how to get out of debt, because we are there. How to avoid getting into debt for our younger ones that are starting coming into the job market. But we are now here. Some of us have gotten ourselves into that trouble, and it's really, really frustrating. How do we progressively and slowly get out of debt so that we do not, and then how do we avoid getting back into it again? So there's so much to be spoken about in this topic. But I want to thank you. I want to celebrate you that you actually really, really did an amazing job. We've all learned from you as much as we've also been able to make our own contributions. So thank you so much. BK, okay, she's talking. Ongs, you can have your closing remarks, and then BK, I'm going to come to you after Ongs, and then Nicky, you will have yours, and then you can also close for us in prayer.
Yeah, I think a quick one is that money is important. We need it, whether you're a Christian or not Christian.
Yeah.
So the sooner you try and educate yourself on how to make money, how to use money, how to, to live within your means, the better.
Yeah. Thank you so much. BK, can unmute yourself.
Yes. My boys are harassing. Okay.
I can see them. They can just show them.
Yeah, the one mommy now. All right. Thank you so much for this platform, Beauty. I learned a lot. Money is not my strongest point. When you invited me, I'm like, what am I going to say? But I learned a lot.
It's been amazing.
So I think in my closing remarks, I would say, invite God into your finances always, always. Even when you go shopping, everything that you do, budgeting, in future goals, invite God. And as Adventists, as a Christian, always tithe and offering. That promise that God has said that an open storehouses for you when we give tithe. Try God. Never even compromise on tithe and offering, and God will give you abundant blessing. Something that you shouldn't compromise on. And when you're talking about stretching that, when we give tithe, you'll see that you're able to live from like you're able to stretch. Somehow God is able to stretch your like you don't run out. You don't feel the pinch of being broke when we give our tithes and offerings. So invite God always. I think that would be my closing remarks. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Very powerful, BK.
Family, as a child and as young people, our opinions and our mindsets concerning money is formed by what we see and what we perceive people to be. So as adults and as us who's older than the young small children at home, at school, at church, in our society, let's stop adding value to people because they have money. Let's treat everyone equally, so that the main aspect can always be respect for humanity and not based on who you are and what you have. And that can also help us to change our perspective towards money and growing up assist us to make right choices and not add so much value to people who have money and so little value to people who are struggling and who do not have money. So that is our challenge. That's my challenge for this week, to treat everyone equally so that the one coming behind me can know that it's not about money. The way you live life, the way you deal with people, is not about how much money they have. You don't need to aspire to have money to feel like a human being or a valued person. So let's just treat everyone equally, and things might start to change. The next generation will be more cleverer and work more better. So God bless you in all your financial matters in your life. Let us
Amen.
close with a word of prayer. Our loving Father who art in heaven, Lord, thank you that you gave us the opportunity to come together and to converse on this topic that can either make us or break us. Dear Lord, we ask you to please take control of our financial lives. As singles, as married, as senior citizens, dear Father, we need your hand of guidance on this matter in our lives. We are wanting to build great lives and live lives to the best because you promised us abundance. So, dear Lord, please continue to educate us. And thank you for the Theatre of Grace, for this initiative. Dear Lord, bless Sis Beauty, that these brilliant ideas to build great lives for each one of us, to have some introspection on these topics. Dear Father, continue to let it flow. May it continue to come. May you bless her with fresh ideas all the time. May you bless her life and her family life, dear Lord, and each and every one that logged on. Thank you for the data. Thank you for the network. Thank you that you made it possible. And we trust that this conversation has enriched our lives and has built us in character. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a blessed week. We're going to end the broadcast now.